You doing?
That's
We
all.
are. We are live.
Yes,
Who knows what's gonna happen? I don't know. Originally, I wasn't even planning on going live or whatever, just recording the conversation. But I don't know. I don't
hey,
know if it's God or just indigestion or whatever is going on. But I decided going live would be cool. Whatever the this is an unknown. This is an unknown conversation. Other than us emailing back and forth,
correct.
and talk in general terms, talking about the future of policing and kind of like
Right.
what's the landscape of policing these days, and where we're headed. Then I don't have an agenda for the conversation. I'm gonna let you drive that. But first, as people kind of pop into the chat as we're going
Right.
live, and I think I'm just gonna throw this into the Failure to Stop podcast and just it'll be a bonus episode. So if you're listening to this, the Failure to Stop podcast is the #1 show where law enforcement meets culture. So we will throw that out there as a bonus conversation to listen to wherever you're at, whether you're on shift or whether you're, I don't know, making hot dogs at a Coney Island somewhere, whatever it is that you're doing, and enjoy the conversation with myself. And let's welcome Nathan Daley, man. Thanks for hanging out. You reached out. You were the spearheaded getting this done. So tell
Yes.
us who you are, man. Tell us your story, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. First of all, Mike, you're the man. I really appreciate you. I've been following you for a while, and just recently got on YouTube myself.
Yeah,
So let me give you a little backstory. And again, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come and speak.
for sure, man.
So you guys, for those out there, welcome in. My name is Nathan Daley. My channel is The Real Nathan Daley on YouTube and on other social platforms. I'm a 13-year law enforcement veteran out here in the state of Georgia. And I started a long, long time ago, back before we had body cameras, the old school days.
So how many people did you beat to death and not get
I,
caught
ple-
for?
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth, right?
Got to
Plead the
wait for the statute of limitations to.
facts.
Uh,
Absolutely.
hey, good
So,
news is Biden made lynching illegal, so you don't have
yes,
to
he
worry about
did.
that anymore. It's
No,
good
we
for him,
don't.
man.
We don't have to worry
Yeah.
about that because God
In other
forbid.
in other news, tomorrow he's going to make drugs illegal.
Well,
So
technically,
that'll work.
drugs, but not drug paraphernalia, right? He's handing out pipes. He's handing out pipes.
All right.
Yeah,
Anyway.
make it make sense. Make it make sense. We want cleaner products for you to use, so
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't have you don't break out with other diseases, right?
Right.
So you guys, I started a long time ago. Just recently, I got injured really bad on the job, performing my duties, out here. Tried to do a traffic stop. I ended up getting dragged on the interstate um, while trying to make an arrest. The suspect dragged me and ran me in between cars going down the interstate. I ended up getting thrown off of the vehicle and slapping on the pavement. Went unconscious. Got a lot of damage across my body. Took about 2 years to recover. But because of those injuries, I was unable to return to work. And so during that time, this happened in 2019. The following year, 2020, we know what happened then, right? The COVID, and then we had all the riots. We had the
Was
protesting.
was your injuries attributed to COVID in 2020? You were a COVID number.
I was a
You get,
COVID number.
he just
Yeah.
got drugged by a vehicle. He's in the hospital. Oh yeah, that's definitely
COVID.
COVID. That's definitely
Right.
COVID.
Yeah, I got misdiagnosed, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. There was so much that went on that year. It made recovery so much more difficult. No one knew what was going on. It was a very miserable process. That's how I got this battle scar over my eye. I almost lost my eye because of that injury. And so overall, I had to medically retire from law enforcement. I was really disappointed, you guys. I was fed bound. I had all kind of little plans and visions for myself. But I took that time as I was recovering to look at the state of this country and what we're going through, and I was highly disappointed. As for those who are officers currently working or retired, you know what I mean by when I say that. And I've policed through all of the protesting, the insurrection of Black Lives Matter, so I know the pros and cons. Well, know the cons of that organization, and there's just so much. And I told myself that I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to speak out. Of course, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm a Black man, right? And so, what am I?
Supposedly. I mean,
Hopefully,
so am I if I want to be.
facts. You can be who you want these days. I was a
Yeah.
dinosaur last week, and people accepted me for who I was. This is the country that we're in, right? And so I think One of my biggest challenges is I patrolled a predominantly Black community when I started law enforcement. And I know the challenges, right? I understand the history of this country. I understand, the things that go on, the relationship between law enforcement and the Black community, but it's not all of the Black community, but it's enough, right? There's a lot of propaganda that's pushed on my community in regards to law enforcement. And so I wanted to come out here and actually be a voice of reason, provide insight, and start educating my community on a lot of the issues and the nuances within law enforcement in order to have better outcomes with the police and also help other people, right? And so, again, I call myself the law enforcement translator. I take these difficult topics and I translate them for, more sensitive ears and sensitive hearts. So we know there's a lot of tough conversations, and you guys, that's kind of what my channel is all about. So I reached out to Mike the Cop. I said, hey, listen, I want to put my message out mainstream and kind of really get more attention and help rebuild this relationship, because as we know, we're being used as political pawns, and it's very unfortunate, And so the only way to turn this ship around is that people have to stand up and start speaking out, and so that's kind of here I am. And through the midst of that, I started my own nonprofit organization for law enforcement officers called the Blue Phoenix Initiative. And, here we are. We can dive into that a little bit later as we go through the conversation.
Nice. Yeah, I just started putting pen to paper this week on a book project that I'm working on to hopefully encourage cops. And one of the things that I'm putting in the introduction is truth and justice are inseparable.
Right.
And the truly evil people understand that, and they divide that.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of talk in our culture about justice, social justice, right? And they know not. There's a lot of people in urban America. I guess I would describe it as that. I don't know that. I'm not even so sure it's just along racial lines, but certainly more obviously, like we see the major urban centers,
Yes.
right? New York, Detroit, Chicago, LA, go across the country and you look at some of these St. Louis, major urban centers, and they have confused justice, truth and justice. They know that they have to go together. So if they can separate them, they can cut off justice from truth. Mm-hmm. And still put the clothes on that say justice, that they can manipulate people. They can insert the truth replacement. It's like vegan justice, right? It's like it's not real meat. It's right. it's like the untruth, like put in as truth.
Right.
And when that happens, that's where things start to get dicey with confusing equality and equal opportunities with equity or equal outcomes. Yes. And there's this, it's pretty evident to me through conversations across the country with cops regularly that this is the average person out there. Cops get along with them just fine. They get along with the cop just fine.
Yep.
And worst case scenario, they're just confused. They don't know what to believe.
Yes.
But what's really happening in a lot of respects is the police administrations are giving in to the political agenda of equity and not equality. And so it's the shell of justice. It's the claim of justice, but it has no teeth. It cannot, it won't function. You will not fix the world through quote unquote social justice unless it's rooted in truth. You have to have both so that you have a skeleton and flesh to get up and walk around and do something. Otherwise, it's just an empty blob that does nothing. And I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a little thing there, but this is that's what I hear when you're talking about this problem that you see, that we all see. We're all looking at it. But we have to identify what's really going on if we're going to fight the enemy. We can't just punch at the air.
Yes, and I think one of the biggest problems is, I think the way you said it, skeleton and shell, and the people are the organs, right? The people we're in this thing. We're the body, right? We're the organs inside this thing. The only way this thing works is if we organize, right?
Mhm.
Organs look different, they have different functions, but they're all vital for the survival of the body itself, right? This nation is a body. If we look at that, we're the organs inside operating. We've given up our power in a sense, and we're allowed ourselves to be manipulated through propaganda and the media bullshit. I mean, foolishness.
You're good, man. You can say
Good
whatever you
here.
want.
Okay, good. I like when I can spread my wings. On my channel, I try to be very, I have sensitive ears over there,
Yeah,
Um,
on my channel, I get banned.
okay, good.
So
All right, good. Like I feel more comfortable now.
it's whatever.
So, what you said is absolutely correct. I think the biggest problem is, the media and the powers that be created this perfect Trojan horse, right? The perfect Trojan horse. It looks beautiful on the outside,
Mhm.
but on the inside, it's extremely toxic. And we've welcomed it in, right? We fell for it.
Yep.
Well, for those who have fell for it, right? They've manipulated people through this Trojan horse, and so they know if you attack the horse on the outside, it looks painful, right? People get mad. It's like seeing a cute little dog, right? A little rescue animal. People are like, oh, don't do anything to it, but then you find out the dog has like Ebola, right? And you're trying to like kill the dog because if
Right.
it gets too close, it's going to infect everybody and kill the
Mhm.
nation, right?
Yeah.
And so people who see it say, hey, hold on. This animal right here is contagious with something very deadly. We got to eliminate it. And people are saying, no, but it's cute, right? It's cute. What are they doing? They're manipulating people based on their feelings. That's why people can't. It's such an amazing strategy and tactic.
Mhm.
But for those who see it and recognize it, right? We're like, hold on. It's not about your feelings. Stop making moral arguments. It's not about this. This is deeper than that.
Mhm.
We're talking about the destruction of an entire country based off of people's emotions. And it's a strategy that works. It's been working for a long time, and for whatever, a lot of people keep falling for it. And it's kind of one of the biggest problems I have dealing with, even within my own community, is bypassing the emotions within the Black community and getting to the root of the problem and really unveiling the truth, right? And so the Trojan horse is a very, very smooth tactic. And we're dealing with people who are word wizards, right? And they find a way to spin things and then, enchant the people with a bunch of bullshit. That's what a
Yeah.
wizard does. You know what I mean? And so they cast
Yeah.
spells. And so that's what we're dealing with. And that's what makes it so troubling. It's very hard to move the mindset of a person. Once a person feels that they are right or they were shown something, right? Because again, we know perception is reality. And how do you go into someone's reality and change their mind? When they've been indoctrinated and inundated with a bunch of lies for so long.
Yeah,
It's a
it's tough.
challenge, man.
Yeah, some people are in the comments or somebody Mikey Wheeler asked, "Who's the enemy?" I mean, my personal belief of what is happening as we trace it back,
Right.
I can't necessarily point to any one individual. No, I don't know who the wizard is in this
Right.
Oz right now.
Right.
I don't know who if there is there a man behind the curtain. I don't know. But what I do know is what we are looking at unfolding in front of us. And it's not people who think this is a new thing just aren't, I don't think are good students of history.
Correct.
People wake up and go, how did we get here? Well, it
Right.
doesn't happen overnight. It happens over a long period of time, and it happens with a patient agenda. And
Yes.
that the ideology behind everything that we are seeing right now in our country, that sort of like the normal people who have a framework of what American values are, and,
Yes.
a moral compass, the ethics, the general ethics of what drove uh, the foundations of the country. What we're fighting against is Marxism.
Yes.
It's what it is, right? Like I don't even say the left anymore. I don't say liberals. I don't say leftists. I just I'm just for me, I'm saying it's Marxist. It's the Marxists, whoever they are,
Yes.
whoever holds. And I'm not talking about because I think there's a lot of just uneducated
Mhm.
people and ignorant people, but I don't say that in a
Negative way.
slight.
Right.
I'm not name calling people. I'm just saying there's a lot of people, particularly in our major urban centers, of which you're near Atlanta, I'm here in Metro Detroit, so like both of us have this experience in the major areas. We're not in the country, and it's there's a lot of ignorant people in the sense that they don't know that they don't know.
Correct.
They don't understand that this Marxist agenda and lie is being perpetrated upon them. They've grown. It's the water they swim in.
Yeah.
It's the culture they've been brought up in.
Right.
And it is very purposeful. I think it's evil, but what that does is it creates the divide that prospers only one group of people, and that's the people perpetuating the lie. That's
Correct.
who it's designed to benefit. And there is no, well, we need to try it better. Marxism has never really been done the right way, and that's why it doesn't work. That's a lie. It's been tried a bunch of times. It's being tried all over the world, and everywhere it's tried, it fails, and it only benefits the people that are perpetuating it. And that's why it gets perpetuated, because it shuts out everyone else.
Correct.
And I think we just need to call the spade a spade and say that it's cultural Marxism at work, and we have to identify it to go after it. Now that is the difficult part, right? You already said, hey, it's so hard. How do you do that? What's the right way? Is dancing on TikTok? Is that the solution that the policing world needs? Do we need more dancing cops, more dog and pony show? What do we need in order to effectively reach the people who are ignorant?
I think what you stated earlier is that you're fighting an ideology. How do you fight an idea? Right? How do you fight that? This is not, you can't use this typical warfare tactics and methods to defeat this. You are fighting the mentality, right? So if we're going against an ideology, what do they have against us? They have the media, they have social media, they have entertainment, they have athletes, right? They have, they own everything. This is mental warfare is what it is. You can't see it, can't smell it. But when it hits you, sometimes you don't even realize it hits you. Next, you're falling into this trap. I think what they did, like you said, they're not trying to promote equitable treatment. They're trying to tell people that you are not being treated fairly because of this, because of that, right? Yeah. You're not special, right? Everybody's a first place winner. This is an ideology. And I think people are looking at it and they don't see the real chess move that was made 7 moves ago. Yes. Right. And that's the danger of it, because in the beginning, it looks real sweet and innocent. Right. And then you start buying into it. Hey, you know what? I am having a hard time, and it's because of them, or it's because of that, not because of me. Right. You avoid accountability at all costs. Right. It's someone else who's creating the issue for you. And if we just fix that, then my life will be so much better. And they've managed to manipulate that because they understand human behavior and human nature, and it's so hard to discipline self, right? When you can blame somebody else. And I think, what do we do as officers moving forward? The profession, I always say this all the time on my channel, one of the biggest problems we have is that law enforcement has such a bad PR game. We don't really have a strong marketing team, right? Someone to go out there and bat for police that really know how to address the public. Listen, we know we're dealing with people who are sensitive, right? We have the entire media against the profession, right? We know that law enforcement is used as a political instrument to move, whatever they want to move, their own agenda. And, we do have the money and the resources collectively as a profession. We can really combat a lot of the negative stigmas and the lies. The lies I have to comb through when I'm having discussions. How do you get to it? What do? We have to bring people to the table with truth and transparency, right? Some people have lost trust for law enforcement based on some arguments and some anecdotal experience of some random people, right? You have the words of criminals who all of a sudden become activists and think that they can speak on things that they themselves are the reason why we are here today, right? Right. So again, you have people who don't have genuine interest in fixing the problem, because it's profitable for division, right? I always tell people, If it makes sense, it's not going to make dollars, right? That's
Right.
that's the reality of it all. And so we are battling so much lies and misinformation, disinformation, and we are taking a hit. They have convinced my community that we don't need Black police officers, right? And policing in my community has been difficult.
I've never heard that.
All right,
Yeah, definitely tell
let
me
me
more
dive
about
into
that.
it.
Yeah.
So, I've policed in a predominantly Black community, right? My communities, there's a faction. It's not all of us, right? You guys, when we have these conversations, I always have the preference. We're not saying all, but we're saying some, right? Sometimes too many. What happens is we get insulted as Black men and women when we do this profession. We get called names. We get called sellouts. We get called Uncle Tom, for those who are familiar with Uncle Tom and the book. We get called race traders, right? We get called slave catchers. These are insults that are thrown. Yeah, could you imagine?
The black face of white supremacy.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're working for the white man. I
Mhm.
said, show me this Casper that's holding you back. Show him to me. We can lock him up together, right? And so I understand where it's coming from. The problem is it's rooted in misinformation. There isn't history, right? I think a lot of us, we hold on to the history and we want to blame, the generations and generations and generations of an incident that occurred. We all aware of American history. It's not beautiful. It's ugly. It's horrific, right? No one condones that. I don't, right? At the same time, we have to move forward, and we have to move forward properly, understanding that it's a sensitive issue, and I get it, which is more reasons why I encourage Black people to step up and get into the profession so you see what's going on. Serve, put the uniform on and serve with distinction. If you believe that you have the integrity, you have the pride, you have the respect, and you want to show that you love your community, then do the job. Don't complain about it. Put the uniform on. See what I see. And I think what ends up happening is we end up discouraging our people from doing the job. I get insulted all the time. It's difficult. And what they don't realize is when I talk to young men and women, Black men and women who think about doing it, they turn it down. Like, I don't want to do it because I see how you guys are disrespected,
Yeah.
by our own people. So it's very difficult. And so there are challenges that a lot of police departments are having getting Black applicants, who qualify or who actually want to do the job. And so there's a decline in applicants, and a lot of people, if you don't know, out of this country, I think there's approximately 700,000 law enforcement officers in declining, right? We all know why. And out of the 700,000, only 12% are African American, and they have a hard time getting us to put the uniform on, right? And at the same time, I'm injured and had to retire because it was someone who looks like me who tried to take my life.
Yeah.
So it's very deep. It's a very deep seated issue. And it's rooted in a little distrust. It's rooted in the history, as we know. And then also it's rooted in a lot of propaganda. It's rooted in the fact that the media finds every negative incident involving a law enforcement officer with officers white, and then the suspect or the victim is Black, and they want to exploit that, right? But they never show it from the other way around at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Never, never, never. They never show you when there's a Black officer that shoots and kills a white person or shoots and kills a Black person. They never show it. It's not profitable, right? It's
I
not profitable.
just saw a headline today. I think I screenshotted it so that I can reference it real quick here. I was laughing. I was going to make a reel about it today because I just yeah, nope. Doggone it. That's not it. I saved it on Instagram, so stand by. This is
All
the
right.
beauty. This is the beauty of live, because it doesn't always go according to perfect plan. Saved. Here it is. It's a headline from The Guardian. It's by Tayo Barrow, whoever that is. I mean, whatever. White outrage about Will Smith's slap is rooted in anti-blackness. It's inequality in plain sight. What made me think of that is like you are getting dragged by a vehicle
Yep.
driven by someone who looks like you,
Mhm.
and somehow it can still be turned around and misconstrued as there's that policing is inherently racist.
Right.
The stuff is mind blowing. But I think like uh that all resonates with me as indicative of what we see. Then I think, what's the right first step? For me, going back, what drove me into social media, and I'm curious how this jives like with your own experience. It sounds similar, right? You
Right.
said something earlier about they have the media. So the they being those that hold this ideology,
Right.
uh, this negative, evil, divisive ideology. They own the media, so we have to that's the battlefield, right?
Yes.
Are we right? Are we wrong about that? I think that's worth thinking about and revisiting again in my own head, because I haven't in a while. But what drove me was when I saw, like, I was a cop. I started in 2009, so kind of go through a bunch of experiences. Some really really terrible, some really really awesome. The full gambit of experiences as a cop. Seeing people I care about die. You know, living no one can understand what a cop sees or goes through. It's very very difficult without doing it, right? Like, go for a bunch of ride-alongs and you'll start to get an idea. But you would need to go for a lot of ride-alongs. Like, do
Correct.
it. You just start going on them like every couple of days, and you do that for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. You'll start to sort of like get an idea, right? Even then, you're not the one with the gun strapped on your hip, so it's still going to be a little bit hard to grasp. But I was on vacation and I saw this whole fallout from the Ferguson shooting
Yes.
of Michael Brown. And I just saw the media spin. And that was the moment that I was like, I felt compelled to continue to do more on social media, because I'm like, okay, this is the playground of ideas.
Right.
Kids are learning about this situation somewhere. Kids in high school, they're not watching Fox and CNN, but they
Correct.
are on Twitter, they are on Instagram or Facebook at the time. No, nobody in high school really goes on Facebook anymore, but they're out there, they're engaging on social media. That's where they're getting their information, and this is all bent to a lie,
Yep.
and that motivated me to do that. It sounds like it's that same thing that motivates you, but is social media, here we are on social media, we're on
Right.
YouTube, we're on Facebook. Is that the place to do it? Because
Absolutely.
how much benefit is coming from that? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
So it is absolutely the best move. We don't control, we talk about the slap, right? We talk about the infamous slap. What's the issue with that? I'm gonna touch on that real quick. The Oscars was on life support. Let's be honest.
I didn't even know I didn't even know they
I
were
didn't even
on.
know I didn't
I,
even know they
I,
were on.
I started getting text messages with me with dude. I swear the internet gods and the meme gods just,
They
I
moved,
mean,
they
they
moved it
rained down. I was like, there
like
was there
divine.
was there was already memes like
It, it-
as it
it's
happened. I don't know.
it's
Like, it
like
was
they
crazy.
are on standby at any moment. They're ready, right? And you look at the power of social media. It is the new media. It is the new media. And so, to tackle difficult problems like this, you have to be on social media. It is what it is. In order to get the message across, we need to start grooming the children, right? Because they are going to be the new leaders. They're going to be actually running this country. So if they grow up with this mindset of, racism, ignorance, and we want to be treated like this, treated like this is going to reflect, right? This is the whole game plan. If you mess with them, if you indoctrinate them, you're good, you're set. The enemy, the people in power are playing the long game, right? They're not playing the short game. This is chess, not Connect Four, right? It's not even checkers. Connect Four is what some people are playing. And I think when you say how do we handle this situation, it has to be done through communicate. We have to communicate. We have to be patient, right? We have to be willing to talk and have the conversation and be honest,
Yeah.
right? A lot of people don't feel like you're being honest, right? When we have these debates and topics about policing, if you don't talk about corruption. Yes, corruption is real. A lot of people don't even understand how corruption works within the police department, right? I tell people all the time that all police officers are not created equal, meaning We're very different. We're very different. We have different life experiences. Just because we all wear the same uniform doesn't make us all the same, right? And people need to understand the nuances. You know, you have the nonprofits like Humanize the Badge. People need to understand that we are regular people putting on a uniform. And what makes us different is a lot of things. There's nuances to it. We have to analyze these issues that we feel uncomfortable with one at a time and address it one at a time in order to get to the root. Everything is not racist. Everything is not just because you have a white officer who told you to shut the hell up, right? Because if I do it and the victim or the citizen is black, if I do it, it's okay. If a white officer does it, he's a racist. It doesn't work like that, you know? And so my job is to bring some insight and transparency to the conversation. Every white person who gets on you or is rude or is unprofessional doesn't make that person a racist, right? So we've been using these terms to describe situations that are not accurate. But at the same time, we can't say that corruption doesn't exist. We can't say that there are not racist police officers or bad
Absolutely.
officers. We all know that. That's true. The problem is
true of humans.
we're humans, right?
Yeah.
The issue is we're overinflating, right? The issues, you know, the average citizen has good outcomes with law enforcement. And then when you break down, right, the numbers and you start looking at the numbers, right, they go, oh, officers abuse their power. You know, they could be some assholes, a lot of them. You know, you have officers that suffer from ego. They have an ego problem. We know that to be true, right? And so there's some issues there. People have an issue. Most importantly, what I've seen throughout my career, throughout these 13 years, the number one problem people have, even within the Black community, is officers that are unprofessional, disrespectful. They abuse their authority and their power, right? And so that is the issue. But do they have good outcomes at the end? Yeah, but your feelings might be hurt. True, right? You might feel a little belittled. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. But when we talk about our police officers out here annihilating people, and no, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. And the media has a way of showcasing it in a way to where it spins on our emotions, right? And we start to believe that this is the everyday outcome of people. And so when I have these conversations on my channel, that's what I'm battling. I'm battling the idea that this seems like it happens all the time. And you know, I had a discussion with someone not too long ago on my channel, and they said, "Well, this never happens to white people." I said, "Are you kidding me? They're killed the most by police. If anyone, it should be, you know, white lives matter, right? They should have a march too. You know, they get killed just more, twice as much as black people. Like, we understand the games. We have to understand there's games being played. The only way for us to fix this problem, we have to come together, sit down, have an honest conversation, show the real numbers, right? And stop allowing these word wizards, right, to manipulate our emotions and in turn end up affecting our behaviors with one another, right?
Yeah. I think that we're fighting the battle on two fronts. When you think about like by air, land, or sea, I don't know how many fronts there are to this battle. I would say probably three that I can think of right off the top of my head. If you lump media and social media into sort of like one thing,
right?
But I'm a big believer that the longest lasting change that can happen will start internally. It's going to start by having these conversations inside our departments and making sure that our own house is in order before we try to fix communities, right? Like, and a lot of people, you know, there's someone in the chat that I'll address real quick, as I like to do that when we're live and interact. This just comes from Facebook. There's a Carl Spencer said, "Stop hunting black people." And my answer was, "Carl, you'll need to grow up if you want to be taken seriously. Are you looking at your screen?" Like, and Carl says, "Because you have a black officer, you think it doesn't happen? Stop denying it." What the problem is, Carl, is neither one of us are denying that there are bad officers. Neither one of us are denying that. We just said it.
Right.
So the fact that you're refusing to listen, when Nathan, you said earlier, we got to bring people to the table of truth. That's where we have a conversation, but it can't be rooted in feelings.
Right.
It can't be rooted. We have to kind of shed the perceptions or set them aside and be willing to have a real conversation about reality. Like, we have to look at We have to look at what is objectively provable,
Yes.
knowable to everyone, regardless of the color of our skin. And that's again the Marxist problem. Is that's where critical theory comes from. And if you think critical theory and critical race theory is new, you just never read Karl Marx. I'm sorry. It's as old as the Communist Manifesto, guys.
Yes.
And Karl Marx just put it into words. It was already an idea that was in various cultures. So you just don't understand history. I love you, whoever you are, that thinks that either of us would be naive enough to think that there aren't bad cops. That's silly. You just don't understand history, and that's okay. That's why we're having these conversations, so that people like you can be educated if you'll listen. But this is if just throwing comments that you agree with or that you think on the screen makes you feel justified as though you've had a conversation or you've actually listened to what someone is saying, then you're mistaken. And that's why I say you got to grow up. And I don't say that rudely. I mean, like, you literally can't be an intellectual toddler and expect to accomplish anything. You have to put your big boy pants on and actually have a conversation. Someone else that I ended up blocking because it got vulgar on his part, but he said, I was in Ferguson. Where were you? Funny enough, Humanizing the Badge sent a delegation of people to Ferguson and actually sat down with community organizers that lived in Ferguson. We're not talking about the people bust in to throw Molotov cocktails and loot stores. We're talking about the people that live there. And we sat down with them. There's videos of it. Go on to Humanizing the Badge YouTube channel, which is kind of dead. We don't put much there anymore, but we have highlights from that. We had a conversation. We went there and spoke to them. So for people that are, again, intellectual toddlers that like to throw their food at the screen on YouTube and Facebook in the comments and think that that's going to somehow justify your position, you're sorely mistaken. You're not taken seriously because you're acting like a child, right? Like you have to have a grown-up conversation.
You're perpetuating the problem that we're trying to fix. And the whole idea is I'm not upset about the mentality if you're willing to, like you said, here, I think this is why my channel is so important, and what I'm trying to accomplish is so important, because I can go into the community and have conversations that a white officer cannot have. Where people will completely shut you down simply because the color of your skin. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And it's unfortunate, but I understand the game. I understand how the game is played, and so I look at this as divine purpose, right? And so, I go into spaces that don't like the police. And when I go in there, but then when I leave, people have a better understanding. Say, hey, we still dislike the police, but I feel a lot better. Right. I feel a lot better because someone took the time to talk to me. Someone took the time to explain, and a lot of the truth be told is that when you talk to some Black people, they say they had worse experience dealing with Black officers than they've had with white officers, but when you really start getting into the real community, start asking the real questions, you start seeing the truth, and the truth doesn't match up to what the media is saying. And so it is a mass manipulation tactic. We get it. But if we are not standing up and fighting back, right, and pushing back on that narrative, we're going to fall to the wayside, right? At the end of the day, I always say a tree with no roots cannot stand. So what are we doing, right? It's on us as officers, police departments, the profession, to get up and start pushing back against the agenda. I think we have gotten so used to just letting things go because we understand the bigger agenda. And I think while we were asleep at the wheel in this profession, the powers that be took over. And
so how do you think if we go back to the idea of making sure that we start with our own house, right? What effective ways do you think exist? Neither one of us are active in policing anymore, and I'm able to. I have conversations with people in police leadership, and some of them hate me, some of them like me, depending on the conversation. But how do you think officers or people in our position can help clean up and eliminate allowing the tail to wag the dog, so to speak, internally? Because
Mhm.
Until the police department as a whole, till we stop having leaders that are politically put into position of power over police officers that
Yes.
are perpetuating this ideology that's poisoning our communities and feeding the lie. So how do you think we can best speak to that as officers or people who are former officers who still are passionate about advocating for a society based on truth and justice?
Well, I will say this. I'm gonna put this disclaimer out here. I took an oath to serve the people, right? Not the establishment. And
Hmm.
so the way I look at it is, if you're a public servant, your job is to serve the people. My allegiance is to my officers all day, but the people are priority, right? In a sense of that is our duty, right? Our duty is law enforcement, and you can't enforce the law, right? If you're not law enforcing. And then again, we talk about protect and serve. That's a marketing term, you guys. We are law enforcers,
Yes.
and you can't protect and serve if you don't enforce the law, right?
I
So
think that's fun. That's a good point, man. Because protect and serve was a motto for the
yes,
LAPD. It's a
correct,
motto. It's not. It's not an oath.
correct,
That's not
correct.
what we're. That's not what we're there to do.
We're
I
not-
mean, yes, we do protect people, but it's in the enforcing of the law against the perpetrator that
Yes,
protection is provided.
correct,
So
correct.
it's an interesting conversation. But yeah, everybody says you're supposed to protect and serve. Well, I mean,
No,
like that's a movie.
by way,
That's a movie
right.
by way
By
of
way of
law
enforcing the
enforcement.
law. There you go.
Yes.
And it's not always pretty. And I think we have to reimagine what policing means, redefine it, right? There are going to be some calls and 911 calls we stop going to, right? There's some things people talk about defund the police, but Biden's about to cut that $20 billion check, right? Back into law enforcement,
Right.
but hey, you voted for him, right? So we got to really look at what's actually going on. We're being used. So we talk about power and what power looks like. Power is addictive. Power is addictive. Law enforcement has become this problem where it's like church and state now, right? It's supposed to be separated, and it's not anymore. The lines are blurred, right? So again, when you talk about it being appointed, when you get appointed, people do whatever they need to do to acquire power. You have to separate that piece, right? And a lot of people don't want to come off their high horse. I think one of the biggest problems is that people have lost their purpose. What is the purpose? Again, serving the people. That should be your priority. Not serving your pocket. And so that's we have to make that distinction. So when we talk about fixing the issue, what do the people want from us? The people are telling exactly what they want. Society has an expectation that whether it's practical or not, society's expectation is way up here, right? Because of media, movies, and things of that nature. And they're asking us to operate here. And unfortunately, we're operating down here. We're not meeting society's expectations. We need to get to a point that we tell the people that either we can rise to the occasion or we tell them it's not possible, right? We be realistic and give them. We still have people who think we can shoot people's big toe or shoot their thumb, right? Hey, can you just shoot the gun out his hand, right? We still have that going on, this sense of obliviousness to the job. There's a lack of realism, right? So there's still this fairy tale view about law enforcement that needs to be corrected, right? And so here's the idea. How do you do it? It's truth and transparency all day. People want truth. They want transparency. We want it all throughout government, all throughout, right? This doesn't stop with us. It goes all throughout government. We're talking about it. People need to know that they have control over the people that are serving them respectfully. And it's our job to let the people know what's practical and what's not practical, right? And so here's the thing. In my opinion, the way you start, you look at what the problems are. The problem is we are picking officers who aren't qualified to do this job. We let everybody and their mama into this profession, right? You know it, I know it. I've had academy mates. I can look at them and be like, how the hell you get in?
Yeah.
I had people getting arrested in my academy before they became officers. You had instructors who were trying to pass people simply because they need the numbers. We don't need the numbers. We need quality over quantity. That is the problem. This should be the hardest profession to get into. This should be the hardest job to earn. You shouldn't be able to walk in and get a badge. It's too easy to become an officer now.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about, we are picking from all areas, right? All levels of quality, the bottom of the barrel, the middle of the barrel, and the top of the barrel.
I personally think that's part of the strategy.
Yes.
I think that they want to weaken. See, the ideology that births the idea of defund the police doesn't mean that they hate the police. It means they want to be the police. They want to radically alter policing to where it is centralized and the people in political power control the police.
Yeah, they
and
privatize
how
it.
it works.
They can privatize
That's
it.
what they want. They
Yes.
don't really want to get rid of the police. What they want to do is be it. And
Yes.
trust me when I say, you guys can believe this, you cannot believe this, but as soon as guys that have a moral compass that wanted to do this job for the right reason, as they continue to leave this profession because of the poison impacting it politically, you're going to be left with people who are going to abuse that position.
Yes.
And you have not seen corruption yet.
Nope.
Until you go 5-10 years down the road of embracing this nonsense.
Yes.
It's going to be it's prophetic in this sense. It's self-fulfilling. You want it, you're going to get it, and you're not going to like it. You're going to wish that the people that did it for the right reasons were still there instead of going to protect their own families from this same ideology.
And you're absolutely, and here's the problem. People don't see it because they don't understand how policing works. They don't understand how corruption works, and people were asking you to be patient, come to the table with an open mind, open heart, and let us explain to you, right? You're being manipulated into thinking that the police are bad. Now, here's the thing. It is on us to weed these things out and weed these people out. I have put together some reform ideas that I know will work. I just need a city that's willing to pilot it.
Can you kind of like bullet point those things?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm curious what that is.
Here's the thing. We can start from the bottom again. First and foremost, again, the issue is we have to understand the big problem is the power issue. Here's how you fix it. You can't fix anything if you don't understand it. And when you have a problem, you have to understand how to reverse engineer it. The issue that we have today is we have unqualified human beings putting the uniform on. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. We have to first reduce the type of calls officers respond to. That's one of the biggest issues. Officers are responding to things that we have no business responding to.
Amen.
All right.
100% agree.
We're not trained for it. We have no business doing it. And we've become a dumping ground for society's issues, right? Yep. People say defund the police, reallocate resources to other social programs. God bless you. Please do it ASAP. The police will love you for it. We're all aboard for it. Absolutely. Do that. And you put the burden and the accountability back on people who should have been doing their jobs, who are getting paid to do a job that they're not bringing any type of legitimate outcomes to, right? Yeah. And that is the real issue. It's going to shine a light on these social programs in these cities and these counties that, they're not doing their job. So again, that's one of the biggest things. If you reduce the amount of calls, right, and officers respond to specific issues, you're going to free officers up. You're going to need less police officers because we're not going to be out here running around up and down people's trees and answering barking dog noise complaints. I had to go to houses because people's kids, their kid wouldn't go to school, right? Hey, officer, can you,
you're supposed to be a parent. You're supposed to be a marriage counselor. You're supposed to be a civil attorney. You're supposed to be all this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of really focusing on the prevention or response to actual criminal behavior.
Thank you. And that is the problem. So you free up the officer's time. By freeing the time up, you can put officers in programs where they can train more. We need more adequate training, proper training, right? But on top of that, before we get there, you need to hire better quality people, and you need to pay them like a profession. Pay officers like a profession, right? The training needs to be longer. I think 2 years. My academy was 6 months, one of the longest in the state of Georgia. And we were 6 months and some change. And then, of course, after that, after your training, you have the FTO process and things of that nature.
Right.
Our training was long. You have some officers that spend damn near 3 weeks in the academy and they get a gun and a badge, right? That's a problem. Of course.
Some states now, still to this day, I think there's places in like Oklahoma, you can like get hired as a cop and they literally put you in FTO first.
Mm,
Like, you know nothing. You just
right.
have you have like a badge and a gun and you go out there and then you go to the academy later. Like, I'm like, what? That's back asswards, man.
It is. It is. When you think about it, you have people who go to beauty school, right? Nail techs, beauticians that are in school for 2 years to cut hair, right? To dye people's hair, right? Then the biggest threat in their profession is they give somebody a bacterial infection, right, on their scalp, right? For us, we make a mistake, someone's life is taken. If you confuse your taser for your gun, hey, cuckoo, cuckoo, you're dead, right? So if we make an honest mistake in our profession, it can cost us our life. It can cost someone else their life, right? An honest mistake in this profession. One would say there's no room for error, right? We have pilots. God forbid if the pilot was like, my bad, I missed the wrong switch, crashed the plane, So there's certain professions where there's not enough room for us to make excuses. Though we are justified in honest mistakes, we know as officers an honest mistake, one, can either cost us our freedom or put us 6 feet below, right? And so again, training has to be one of the biggest things that we push in a reform package that we need. We need more training. We need better training, quality training across the board. It costs money, though. People need to understand that costs money. And so we need to refund the police if we want to have the outcomes that we want. Defund, no. Refund, absolutely. We just need it in the right areas. What else do we need? I believe we need body cams for all. I think there's no way around it, because we've come into this situation now where we have, unfortunately, I started law enforcement when people actually believed an officer's word, right? Where I used to go and just a regular old traffic court and say, "Hey, yeah, ma'am, you ran this stop sign." And now I have an attorney that says, "We don't believe you. I need to see the dash cam video." I'm like, damn, And so where now is an officer's word is only as good as what's seen on the body camera. The body camera for all those, when it first came out, I wasn't a fan of it because I thought supervisors were going to use it to spy on us, and which
They do that too sometimes.
Which they do. But overall, I see officers being accused all the time for things they did not commit. I myself have been accused of things that I did not do. And if it wasn't for the body camera, you guys, the allegation alone could have got me in a lot of trouble, and we talk about in regards to dealing with women, in regards to dealing with criminals, doing certain things. People accuse you of doing illegal acts. We seen one recently where a guy was like, "Oh, you planted that drugs." And he's like, "Man, it's on camera. I didn't plant anything." Right. And so, you have these or abuse of power. All these things are recorded. And unfortunately, you have some bad officers that want to turn their cameras off. Right. So again, we need to address those things. Punish officers who want to violate policy. You have to do it. I think another issue when reform, and again, I listen to what the people are talking about. They have a hard time agreeing with departments and police officers that get to discipline themselves when they violate their own policies. We have to be honest. That's probably not going to work in the future, right? There needs to be some sort of a third party or outside agency that looks at that. Unfortunately, corruption can be pervasive in a police department when you have it. And when people understand how corruption works, they understand that, okay, I can see how you can have a very, very great police department, but you have a pocket of 3 police officers that operate in this area that can run a nice little corruption ring, right? All to themselves. And it could be done under the umbrella and in secrecy, right? And so we need ways to address those issues. But people want to see that the police sometimes aren't good at disciplining themselves, right? If I have all the power and you give me the belt to beat myself, I might be a little bit lenient on how I throw the whip back,
Sure, yeah.
And so we have to just be honest. And I think people want, we know that they know you can't get rid of 100% of the problem, but I think people are saying we need to reduce it significantly. A lot of things need to be reduced significantly.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like going back to that idea of what fronts we fight this battle on.
Yes.
You've got internal,
Yes.
then you've got in your community, right?
Yes.
Like you go out and then you're doing your job, how you interact as you do your job,
right?
And clarifying for people that our job isn't to make people happy. Our job isn't to convince people that we're nice. Our job is to be taken very seriously and to be law enforcers, right? Like
Yes.
to catch the bad guy, right?
Right.
And in the process doesn't mean that we have to be rude about it, but that's our focus, right? And then the other
Yes.
front would be media, obviously, is another area that we've been talking about. Social media. I think those are good fronts.
Yes.
One of the things that you
Right.
said is something, man, keep going. I want to, there was something that I wanted to, there was something that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
That you mentioned, and I'll come back to it. I'll think about it, but you're kind of going through this bullet list of things that we need to do for sure. Oh, I know what it was.
Go ahead.
This third party, right? Like where corruption does exist,
Right.
it's hard to weed it out when you're expecting corrupt to correct, right? Like,
Correct.
so it's very difficult where it does exist. And I do not believe that that is the norm. I don't believe, the majority of departments suffer from widespread corruption. I don't think that is borne out factually speaking at all. But
Agree.
Where it does exist, then it does take a third party. Now, normally we go escalating. I just heard of a story that happened in Moscow, Idaho. Actually, kids were arrested for putting up posters that criticized local politicians. Actually, it's a whole thing. But for a year, like the department had maintained they didn't have any video record of it, and they did. They lied. Right. So you can't trust that same department to now say, oh, yeah, we lied about that, but now we're not going to lie anymore. It doesn't work that way. The trust is broken and now it has to be repaired. It takes somebody on the outside. Well, then normally you would have to go to the county, right? Go above and then go state attorney general's office, state police, like you're increasing the outside scope. My fear about third party rooting out of corruption or handling acts of corruption or problematic police behavior is people who don't understand policing.
Yes.
The civilian oversight boards, right?
Yes.
Who they're going to review a shooting or a use of force or a situation and make a determination on it. But they have no experience or context from which to judge that appropriately.
Correct.
So speak to that. When you talk about third party, how do you avoid the ignorant casting judgment on the informed?
Yeah. So the problem is, like what we're doing now, we're having this discussion. People need to hire the officers that they want to represent the community, right? So if you have a community board, I think like it's a job. This should be another stream of a profession. So Mike, say, and where you live at, people say, hey, we know Mike, we like his mentality. We like how he looks at things. We think he's very fair and he's very equitable, right? And we trust his judgment. Mike, can we hire you part-time to represent our community when we have an issue involving law enforcement in this state? And you give a very practical view. Now, your job is not to make the decision. Your job is to translate it. On my channel, I say, I am your law enforcement translator. I'm here to filter the things through law enforcement and to you. My job is to take what you give me, right, and translate it to law enforcement so that they understand, because what we hear sometimes a bunch of complaining that's not rooted in facts, right? So I take the emotion, I filter that emotion, right? And I turn it into facts for police officers, right? Because on my channel, I say we do facts over feelings, but I don't have a problem having the moral argument with them because the moral argument matters. It does matter. So that's how I would solve that problem. And in my department, I handled a lot of problem solving issues. I love puzzles. I love conundrums. It's what I'm good at. I think that I was just blessed with that type of mind to kind of look and manipulate issues and create solutions out of it. And so basically you'll be a consultant, right? You'll be a consultant, but you'll be a consultant that they handpicked and they chose to represent their community. I think what you said was absolutely correct and it's needed. I would say when we look at the problem, I like how you broke it down to department, officer, and community as being the three areas of attention, because people don't understand that one of my biggest headaches with law enforcement had nothing to do with the people. had everything to do with the department. I had more
Yes.
problems in the building than I had out the building, right? Dealing with
Yeah.
egotistical people who've lost their purpose in the job.
Yeah.
And it happens. People start off good. They get the power. You know, let me address the power issue real quick. Listen, you guys, for those who are listening, all men and women are not created equal, right? Our hearts,
Wait a sec.
our hearts. Man, listen, I can't stress it enough. Some people cannot handle power.
I can dunk if I want to.
Right. Sure you can, right? What did I learn? This is one of the professions where, and this one needs to be changed. Let me go in my mind real quick. See how I can explain this. This is one of the professions where you are automatically given respect, right? Simply because of what you do. People respect you because of the uniform. What's the problem with that? The biggest problem is unearned respect. I have to respect you simply because of your profession. That's one of the biggest problems in law enforcement. People are given respect and they're not worthy of it. They don't deserve it. They never earned it. Could you imagine? You have a profession where people just have to like you just because you're a celebrity, right? You didn't do anything to earn my respect, but I have to give it to you. What does that do to a person, right, who doesn't have the mental fortitude to process the idea that they're wielding power over another individual, right? When I first put the uniform on, I didn't understand why people were always submitting to me. I didn't understand it. By the grace of God, I will say this. My parents raised me well, right? To understand. Now, I've had my moments. I had ego moments, right? And people were there to address it. You know, I never got myself so far out that I was too big to be humbled, right? But the idea is that respect has to be earned. And in law enforcement, unfortunately, people are given respect and they don't deserve it. They're not respectable. They're not a respectable person. We see that in the interactions with police in the community and citizens, and we see it in the interactions with police and police officers, right? As they start gaining rank, they start disrespecting the people below them. They think they're holier than thou. They have a God complex, right? They're benevolent dictators, right? And the whole idea is that how do you fix that problem? You make it so that you incentivize officers that understand that if you want to get paid, if you want to be judged, if you want this raise, if you want this promotion, then we need to see how you are actually interacting with the people. The people decide whether or not you get that raise, right? You are earning the respect from the people. What would it look like?
So you're saying basically, if I'm hearing you right, that just because you put on a uniform you shouldn't walk out of the locker room and get into the patrol car and go out there and assume that you should be respected by just virtue of the uniform you have on. You have to take an approach to your career in law enforcement as someone who's got to go out and earn the trust and respect, and that the means of that trust and respect is truth and transparency.
There you go.
Over time. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, and the reason why I say that, because we've already tried it the other way. We've tried it the way where, hey, I have the uniform, respect me because of the uniform. No, I'm respecting the man that's wearing the uniform. I'm respecting
the only way to get a general trust and respect of the uniform is enough individuals. It's an individual effort, right? It's a cumulative effect.
It is individual.
Enough of us in uniform, having earned that trust and respect, then generationally speaking, you can count on the fact that people would be teaching their people in their community. You can generally trust the police because I have had enough experience with them earning that.
Yes.
You know, now it's not just an all or nothing. It's a generalization, of course, but it's an interesting point.
Yeah, because people judge us by the color of our uniform, just like people are judged by the color of their skin. What we're saying is judge me by the content of my character, right? Respect me by my character, not by what I'm wearing. You know, when people look at me, they'll, like I talked about the insults earlier. People see me in the community and say, oh, that's a sellout. You know, he's working for the white man. He's working for white supremacy, right?
Yeah.
He is, but you don't know me. I'm here to save your life, right? Could you imagine? I'm here to help you out. You called the police. I'm the one who showed up. Someone was attacking you. I'm the one who helped. And so again, talk to me. Take the time to have a conversation with me and find out who I am. Now, if I have a professional problem and you see that, the citizen should have the opportunity to rate, right? To rate their officer that they come in contact with. You pull me over, I show up, here you write me this ticket. I say, thank you, officer. I need your card. And your card has some information on the back.
Little Google review.
I get to do a Google review over my officer. And guess what happens when you go back to the police precinct, right? And I say, hey, I need that raise. They're going to like, oh, let's pull up your citizen review contacts, right? What am I doing? I'm incentivizing my officers to go out here and be respectful. Do you care more about that pay raise and that promotion? Do you care more about that than you care about your ego being stroked? Do you care more about your success in the department than you do, right? Respecting the public. So I can, how do you fix it? People want to know, how do you fix an egotistical officer? Easily. You hit them in the pocket. Easy. Now, here's the double entendre, right? How do you fix the problem of nepotism, right? That's one of the big issues. This is a us problem in law enforcement, right? How do I fix the nepotism problem? How do I fix the favoritism? They call it the good old boy system, whatever you want to call it, the system where you're treated unfairly in your own department, right? How do you fix racism in the department, right? This is how you do it, right? You have a scale that you can't argue. People can't argue. You're basing it off of my performance, right? Not based off of opinion and assumptions or based on who you know or who you were sleeping with, right? We know that. We know that, officer, right? So
strongest knees in the department.
Facts. Facts. Yeah, absolutely. We know that person, right? This is real. There's one in every department, man. And then they not even gonna go there, but yeah, you know how they made it to the top, So how do you fix that? When you have something that's undeniable, right? Hey, do you see my citizen contact rating? I'm the highest in the department. How can you deny me this position? Okay, now we have a problem. Right now we have a problem because you can go and do an interview, and I've done it before. I've done an interview. I've been passed up on interviews because they know my moral compass, right? I've been passed up on supervisor positions. They know my moral compass, right? They want people they can control. You have certain departments, they want to hire and promote people that they can control, right? The one who wears the best lipstick in the department makes it up to the top, right? How good is that chapstick, sir? It's really good, right? I'm good at kissing ass. You make it all the way to the top. But those who are genuine, good old-fashioned, good quality patrolmen, officers, right? It's hard. Some of the best supervisors are all the way at the bottom of the totem pole, because they don't play politics, right? How do you fix that? Some of our best and brightest officers cannot make it to the top because they don't play politics. They're not judged by the quality, right? Or by their integrity, right? Sometimes you have too much integrity, you can't climb to the top.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that there should be, I think one of the simple ways that we could alter local policing anyway would be the people get to choose who leads the police department.
Yes.
When you have now, I get it, right? Like we elect a city council or a mayor, city administration. It varies by jurisdiction how that plays out. Some people have a city manager, some people have mayors, whatever, and then they get to appoint the chief. But the problem with that is the more layers of appointment we have, the more breeding ground we have. It's like a petri dish for corruption, right? Yep. Like yep. It can grow there. The more direct appointment by the people we have, the less opportunity. It won't eliminate it entirely. There's no doubt about that, but it will greatly reduce the opportunities for that corruption to breed, So I think like eliminating that as soon as possible by an objective standard that the voters can see, and then vote who is going to be that chief of police, vote who is going to lead those men and women. That would be a way better solution than you voted for this guy who then appoints a public safety commission, who then appoints a chief, like the layers in which favors can happen and all this stuff starts to kind of take root. And
Right.
all of a sudden, years down the road, you've got a system where the people are very, very far removed from who's actually leading the people who are enforcing laws in their community.
Welcome to modern day, right?
Yeah.
And that is consistent all throughout government. The problem is the people have relinquished all of
Absolutely,
their
they have.
power because they're
Yes.
damn lazy. So we've gotten so comfortable. I won't say lazy. I'll say we've gotten comfortable,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And we were comfortable and confident, believing that we can give this to people to do for us, and because they lack the integrity, that's the issue. The name of the game is we have too many of the people that we entrust with power that lack integrity. That's it. That's the name of the game at the end of the day. Again, not everybody is designed and have the actual they have the integrity to actually handle power properly. They
Yeah.
get it. She said lazy is right. We just relinquished too much power, and now we're mad, right? Now we're complaining about why we're being mistreated. The same people, I tell people, the only power people have is the power that you give them.
Yeah.
We've given it away.
Comfort is a great enemy. I mean, that's
Yes,
how
it is.
that's how the enemy, again, whoever the Oz behind the curtain is, one or a million of them,
Right,
as long as they can make people comfortable, relatively speaking, and
right.
pacify them, they don't have to be held accountable for what they're doing.
Correct. Sleep at the
Man,
wheel. Sleep at
I
the
got to
wheel.
wrap it up, but man, what a cool conversation. And I think like you bring up a lot of really interesting points about how like you would influence change. I think that conversation, obviously, we're not going to solve that in an hour and 15 minutes, but at least being willing to have the conversation,
Yes.
and start there. I mean, we could talk a lot more about police training. I think there's some spots where we might even disagree with
Mm.
the level of training or different aspects of that. But what do you guys think? You're obviously live in the chat, but you'll see this video on my channel. I'm gonna send the video to. Do you go by Nathan or Nate?
Yeah, Nathan is it's
Okay.
cool either or. Nathan
And Big N. I don't know.
Big
Like,
N.
I don't know. I'll send you the video. You can post it on your channel if you
Okay.
want or whatever. If you guys want to find Nate, you can go to YouTube and you can look up Real Nathan Daley,
Yes.
Daley. I linked it in the description of this video so you can find him easily. Looks like you talk more about issues more than just policing.
Yes.
So if you guys find his content something that you want to keep up with, definitely give a subscribe to him, or subscription, or a sub, or whatever they call it.
So what do they call it now?
Share it up and tell people about it. And it was a great conversation. I'd love to have you back sometime, or vice
Absolutely.
versa. And appreciate the time you took, man. And
Amen. Absolutely.
thanks to everyone that listened to this. And if you found value in it, especially if you're listening to the audio version of this on the Failure to Stop podcast, guys, all I can do is simply say, hey, if you appreciate the value we're bringing with content, please tell somebody about it. Just share it up with your friends. Go leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or drop a rating on Spotify, or whatever. That's all we can do. We don't own you. We don't own the audience. I mean, it's up to you guys. But this only exists because you engage with us. So appreciate it. And that'll do it for this episode. And any parting words or directions that you want to give people where they can find you, or what they need to do?
Yeah. I just want again, Mike, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come up and speak. I really appreciate it. You're very welcoming, when I reached out to you. I think it's so important that officers, we get together, especially the diverse group of officers, get together. People need to see our interaction and know that we don't hate each other, right? We love all variations, all skin colors, all religion, all different groups of officers. We are all one against this fight against corruption within our department, also the propaganda that's spewed. And so we're all on the same team, and we all want the same outcomes. And a lot of times we're just misunderstood, and we just need a place to speak and give and ask that the people take the time to listen to us and hear from our perspective on our ideas on how we want to fix the problem. So again, I thank you for extending this platform to me. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. We definitely gonna have to do another one. I'm always here. Whenever you need me up, just reach out to me. And to everybody listening, thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen and support this channel. And please come over to my channel, I break down a lot of issues in law enforcement in relation to having better outcomes and also teaching how we can address officers better and vice versa. I need this opportunity to take what you guys feel so I can also translate it to police officers and departments, and it helps with my reform package that I'm going to put out, you guys. So thank you again for your support. Please check out my nonprofit as well, the Blue Phoenix Initiative. If you want to check out the website, it's risebluephoenix.org. You guys, you can catch it on my channel as well, at Real Nathan Daley on YouTube and all social media. So you guys, thank you so much again. And God bless. And I appreciate you for giving me the opportunity, Mike. I appreciate it.
Giddy up. All right. We'll see you guys soon.
All right.